What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. So we are now looking back at 2024. I cannot believe that it is almost 2025. It just feels so crazy to me how fast time goes. Feels like we were just in the summer of 2023, and then you blink and now it's almost 2025. And same thing with COVID. It feels like 2020 was not that long ago, but I cannot believe it's almost been 5 years ago. We are halfway through the decade, and yeah, music is starting to actually take a turn, I think. We're finally getting some good rock and metal albums. It feels like during COVID, maybe things were just oversaturated. They just felt very bland, and like everything was a dime a dozen. Didn't feel like ideas were really new or fresh, but since probably summer 2023, I feel like that has definitely changed. There's a lot of bands that are starting to really push the boundary, and it feels like a lot of bands are becoming unique. People aren't chasing the same sound, and they are starting to stand out in their own way. So this year we had a lot of awesome releases, and I wanted to talk about my 5 favorite albums of 2024 in the rock and metal genre. You know, most of you guys probably don't know this, but 1,000,000% of you that watch this channel are not subscribed to this channel, so it'd be awesome if you want to go ahead and hit that subscribe button, turn on notifications, like and share the video. That would be the best gift that I could possibly get at the end of 2024 here. I really appreciate you just watching the video, but if you can engage with it a little bit, leave me a comment down below about the albums you're listening to. That'd be even better. I really appreciate hearing from you guys, and yeah, let's get started. My number 5 album would be Bill Murray, American Motorsports. Now, this album is awesome. If you've never heard of Bill Murray, it's cool because it combines pop, country, and metalcore elements perfectly, in my opinion. It's very unique, very fresh. Definitely like something you haven't heard before because it has so many different kind of attitudes to it that it's kind of hard to pick and choose where you would put it on a genre level. There's other bands that are kind of doing similar things like Lakeview, where it's kind of rock, kind of pop, kind of country at times, but this is definitely unique to its own sound. Johnny Frank, who used to play for Attack, he is now the one who is mainstreaming this. It's basically a solo project, and he hires musicians to go out on tour. They just toured with Sleep Token, so Bill Murray's kind of been popping off the last few months. The last year they've become a much more household name in the rock scene, but with this album I thought it was something that really took them to the next level. It felt very constructed, less experimental than some of their old stuff like Goblin Hours or Eggy Pocket, but it was still fantastic. It was something where I think a band like this is just going to keep rising because it's so fun to listen to. It's fresh, it's new, and definitely appeals to a much broader audience than just picking one genre and sticking to it. This is something that a lot of different people will like for a lot of different reasons. They can pick and choose the elements that they enjoy out of it, and it doesn't feel like it's overloading you with either one. It's very catchy. You can sing along to these songs, they get stuck in your head, but it also has some cool metal construction, very creative rhythmic elements, and from a musician standpoint, it's still really interesting and fresh to listen to. So if you are into things like this, definitely go check out Bill Murray, American Motorsports. You will not be disappointed. So surprisingly, my number 4 album is going to be Falling in Reverse, Popular Monster. Now, I'm normally not a Falling in Reverse fan, but I felt like Ronnie Radke really cooked on this album. Now, over the last decade or so, I just haven't really got into much Falling in Reverse. I've always respected it. I've always listened to what they put out and try to give it a chance, but other than Ronnie just kind of being a controversial figure in the scene and his name always popping up because of drama or some kind of weird situation out there, I just never got into the music. It was not something that connected with me. It felt like the audience it was going towards was just way more experimental and maybe more high school kids or people that were rebellious, and for me, I'm looking more for musicianship. I'm looking more mature in the writings and the sound that they're going for, but this finally felt like Ronnie Radke actually got to be who he wanted to be on an album, finally got to find his unique voice and his stylistic approach to an album, and this really hit for me because I felt like a lot of it was fun, a lot of it wasn't taken too seriously, but it was also done really well, and it felt like Ronnie got to actually be who he wanted to be on this album. So you look at songs like All My Life, I thought that was a fantastic song. That song, because it had Jelly Roll, it kind of had this country pop vibe to it. It was just fun. It was just something you don't expect from Falling in Reverse. And, it's right off the beginning of the album, so it's something where it kind of draws you in with this kind of, I don't know what to expect with the rest of these songs. I'm not exactly sure where this album's going to go, but this is cool. This is something that's fresh and unique, and it's kind of fun. But then you get down to like Watch the World Burn or Ronald, and these songs just kind of rip your face off. They're awesome tunes. They're very, very catchy. They're very different. They're orchestrated very well. Musically, they're incredibly written, and, it just felt like finally Ronnie Radke got to put himself fully into a project that wasn't just supposed to be something where he's just trying so hard to replicate who he is into his songs, and he got to put himself into songs that finally replicate what Falling in Reverse should be as a band. Maybe it's because he added some new things, like Luke Holland on the drums, I think really brings a lot to the table here, makes these songs stick out. They feel more orchestrated. The chaos feels organized, but it also feels like everybody in this band now is actually bringing something really, really amazing to the table. It's not something where each musician's just kind of following what the songs are asking of them. These guys are bringing things and adding to the songs. They're not just going through, writing something in the studio and then playing it. These guys are kind of bringing ideas together, probably pushing each other to do new things, and it definitely stands out in this album. So it's definitely an album that I was not expecting to like as much as I did, but giving it a chance definitely was something on my radar that going forward I'm going to keep listening to, going to take ideas from, and I think a lot of bands should take a note out of this playbook here, because I think Ronnie Radke found his stride on this album. So yeah, Popular Monster, go check it out if you haven't already. So my third favorite album of 2024 is Linkin Park, From Zero. Now I'm going to let you in on a little secret. I didn't think I was going to like this album at all. It's not because of Emily Armstrong, but it's mainly just because most bands 20 years into their career are not the same band they were when they started. They don't bring the same aggression, they don't have the same passion, and a lot of times they're writing music because they're just trying to make a new record for money purposes or to just stay relevant so they can go on tour. And it's much more of a, I have to do this than it is I want to do this. And most bands, when they start, they want to be a band. A lot of times you're trying to have a career, you want to go out and follow your dreams. Once you've achieved your dreams, things change a little bit for most artists. But I will say with this album, it was something that was kind of a breath of fresh air. I thought Emily actually was a great addition to the sound, and some of their songs really do embody what Linkin Park is. I mean, a lot of this definitely has the old Meteora and Hybrid Theory sound to it, and I was really happy to see that when I put it on, and I thought, some of these songs are great, and some of them are even edgier and heavier than some Linkin Park has even gotten before. Songs like Casualty is a straight punk song that's very metal influenced, and I enjoy that. It feels very modern, and it feels like this is something that is actually picked out of today's work comparatively to something that they're trying to follow from the old success of Linkin Park. Now, they still have other songs that definitely have that vibe. Emptiness Machine or Heavy as the Crown, stuff like that still sounds like old Linkin Park. And there's a few songs on this for me that are probably skippable, but they're still good songs. Definitely, if you were to just put this album on as a whole, there's a lot of different sounds. There's a lot of different ways that they wrote the songs. There's a lot of different approaches to every song individually. I thought each song didn't sound the same, but it also didn't feel stale. It didn't feel like anything got too slow and boring. I thought it was just a good, mature Linkin Park album, so I was kind of impressed, and I think because my expectations were already, I don't think I'm going to like this album. I'm not sure what I'm going to get out of this. Linkin Park is a touchy thing. I mean, I still have Meteora in my car right now. Hybrid Theory, Meteora, those are two albums that, in my opinion, shaped me as a musician as a kid. They were just so influential and so big for the time that I think a lot of people in my generation just use those albums as a benchmark for what this should be. And, some people I think were still disappointed, but I was not one of those people. I thought this actually sounded great. Mike did great on his parts. Emily sounded great. I felt like the songs were written really well. They weren't trying to be something they weren't, but they also went back to their roots a bit and felt fresh. Maybe that's because Emily did bring that new factor of she's still trying to make a name for herself in this industry to say, hey, I want to be the lead singer of this band, and they're letting me have that chance. And I'm going to live up to this that I think Chester would be proud of, and I'm not going to make this something that's about me. I'm going to make this about Linkin Park. I 100% respect it, and I thought, some of the songs on this, again, are skippable songs if you're not into slower, slightly more mature-sounding songs, but as a whole, I thought the album was great. It was something that I just didn't think I was going to like, and then when I put it on, I was pleasantly surprised. I've listened to it a bunch of times now, and obviously Linkin Park's a hugely influential band, and because of their entire existence over the last 20 years, I want to say that's what makes this the number 3 album on my list, because Linkin Park is a huge name, and it's awesome to see them still putting out material that I really enjoy. So if you haven't given Linkin Park From Zero a chance, go do it. You won't be disappointed. So my number 2 album is going to be Inart Wake, Incarnation. I love this album. I felt like it was fresh, it was different, it was unique, and it was something that just really blew my face off when I first put it on. I've been listening to Inart Wake for a little over a decade, and this album is actually a continuation of the first album I ever heard from them called Divination. The same ideals, it's kind of based on tarot readings, and it just has this kind of incredible otherworldly feel to the way the songs are written, the lyricism, everything. Now, is it something that's breaking the mold when it comes down to ambience and atmosphere? Not necessarily, but the way they blend punk, metal, metalcore, heavy metal, and new metal together, it is really fresh to listen to because of all those elements coming together in such a unique way with this band that it is chaotic, it is all over the place, but it also feels well organized, well written, and the musicianship is just off the charts here. Now, for me, a band like this has been a little stale for the last few years. They've really been genre chasing, in my opinion. A lot of the stuff over the last 3 or 4 albums just kind of felt like it fell into place. There's bands that are doing that sometimes where they just aren't hitting home again like they used to. Attila comes to mind, where, you know, you look at something like About That Life, and then ever since then, they've kind of been chasing that success. And with me, same thing with Inart Wake. They've had a few good albums, but as they've been evolving, it just hasn't gotten back to that original success. It felt like they were starting to fall off a little bit, probably since 2016, 2017, and I was kind of waiting for them to just disband and become, you know, new projects. But with this album, it felt like they are finally figuring out who they need to be through the member changes and a few different changes that they're going through as people. They are getting back to their roots, and it feels really fresh and unique. There's amazing songs. Spitting Nails is track number 1. It just immediately goes from 0 to 100 and rips your face off. But then you get into songs like The Flood, Orphan, Tyrant, stuff that just really has a roller coaster effect to it. Each song feels like it has a good start, middle, and end, but each part is uniquely different and brings something really, you know, creative to the table, and just makes you want to keep listening to these songs, because they build and they build to these really awesome climaxes, and then they just punch you in the face, and by the time the song is over, it leaves you wanting more. It makes you go, man, I gotta hear more of this, and it makes you just keep going through the album till it's over, and then you're like, I'm going to listen to that again. It was just fun. It was exhilarating. It was full of adrenaline and passion and aggression. And it's just a fun album to listen to. And for me, I like Inart Wake. I think the sound that they have, the musicianship that they have, their songwriting, it's all really cool and unique. And a band from Australia, they always kind of do that. It kind of has that same thing when you first listen to Parkway Drive and you go, ooh, there's something in this. It's something that is just makes the formula work. This is how it felt for me listening to this album. A lot of people that I know really didn't give this album great, a hard chance to listen to it. They were kind of more into other albums at the time, but for me, this thing is just perfect from start to finish, especially for this genre. So if you haven't listened to Inart Wake, Incarnation, go check it out right now. Tell me what you think down in the comments. I thought it was awesome. So my number 2 album, yeah. And my number 1 album of 2024, probably a surprise to most people, but it is Poppy, Negative Spaces. I thought this album was a magnificent piece of metal. It has so much attitude, so much identity, and it is just well written. I mean, you had Jordan Fish doing a lot of the instrumentals, and then Poppy is just such a creative person, in my opinion. To see her evolution from kind of a pop singer, kind of indie alt singer-songwriter vibe, and kind of doing electronica stuff into what she's doing now with metal and metalcore music is just incredible to me. I actually really enjoy her singing voice too. I think her singing voice is actually really nice. It's kind of elegant and angelic, but then her scream definitely feels feisty and angsty. It feels aggressive, and it feels like she's actually, really embodying what this kind of style of music needs, in my opinion. It needs some attitude. It needs something to not feel so formulaic, or like people are just learning how to scream and then suddenly they're now metal vocalists. She's kind of just going in balls to the wall in the booth. You can tell she just goes in there and doesn't really care about technique, doesn't necessarily try to sound a certain way, but she just goes in and just screams at the top of her lung and gets it out. And you can feel it through this album. Now, this album has some really cool songs. I want to say The Sinner's Falling Out is a great song. They're All Around Us is a great song. New Way Out. There's just some really awesome tunes in here that are very new metal. They're very metalcore. They definitely bring in the Bring Me the Horizon-esque sound, but it is something that is much more fresh in my opinion. And I like Bring Me the Horizon. I think they are good, but with Poppy in there, kind of singing about stuff that she relates to and bringing her own aspect to it, you go through a lot of different genres here that kind of appeal to such a broad general audience that it's really inviting, in my opinion. You've got songs that kind of sound like Deftones. You've got just all kinds of stuff in here. It's very, very unique. It's very, very fresh, in my opinion, and I think it's organized really, really well. I think the album flows great. There are some songs that are straight up electronica pop songs. There's a couple different interludes that are kind of creative and weird, but it feels very poppy. It feels very much like this is who she is, and her angst and her aggression in this album is just so awesome to me. It's just something that really connects with me and thinks, I love that you look at somebody and their image does not represent always what they're feeling on the inside, who they are on the inside, what they're bringing to the table. And she is a great, person to really represent that. She has the kind of innocent blonde girl vibe to her, but man, she can bring out some aggression in this album. And some of her songs are heavier than most other metal albums coming out right now from tough bands that are full of tough guys. What she did with Knocked Loose on the Suffocate tune was incredible as well. I think a lot of people have heard that. And then she had a couple songs with Bad Omens, I think, that were really popular too. I want to say Van. And, you know, Poppy is just somebody, ever since the early 2020s, I want to say 2020, 2021, she had I Disagree. That album was fantastic from start to finish, but I couldn't tell if she was going to keep doing it. Now, she's gone in a couple different directions. She's had some punk albums. She's had a couple EPs that kind of have some different tunes. But this album as a whole was something where I was just blown away the entire time. I thought the production was fantastic. I thought her songwriting, she has catchy choruses on every song, and she just appeals to a lot of different genres on this, and it is just, from start to finish, an awesome album. So Poppy, Negative Spaces, my #1 album of 2024. If you haven't heard it, go check it out. I think for me, that's got to be the album of the year. Yeah. Well, I appreciate you guys stopping by and checking out my top 5 rock and metal albums of 2024. Let me know what your top 5 albums were down in the comments. I'd love to hear from you. And again, if you can, please subscribe to the channel, like the video, and share it with a friend. All the support helps, and I appreciate everybody who checks out the videos, stops by the channel. Everybody have a great New Year's if I don't get to see you. Hopefully we'll have some more videos out real soon. And yeah, thanks for stopping by. Peace out.